What's up guys, Houndish here, and today, well, we're essentially at the end of an era for Destiny 2, as this is going to be the final week and weekly reset of Year 7. As we know, and as we've discussed many times, from next week we'll be heading into Edge of Fate, where not only we get new content and stuff, but of course those massive system changes come into the game, affecting the majority of the content really. So in this one, we'll break down the final weekly reset before we get to Edge of Fate. That means we have a Lootapalooza event, we'll get a whole bunch of stuff dropping from Rite of the Nine, multiple different reward buffs, but also final chances for a handful of other rewards in Destiny 2, adept weapons, and things that'll no longer be accessible when Edge of Fate drops. So we're going to round up all of that, as well as some updates from Bungie pertaining to the release of Edge of Fate. In terms of content stuff, initially, of course Heresy is wrapped up, it's concluded, but we do have one final week to earn any rewards, complete titles, whatever it is, if it relates to episode Heresy, or indeed, any of the other episode content from this year. We've got just a few more days before this stuff gets rearranged or taken out of the game in favor of Edge of Fate. But with Bungie having a sort of loot event for the final week of the episode right here, they have said, celebrate the last week of Heresy and Rite of the Nine. Of course, there are boosts for Rite of the Nine, we'll touch on that, but Bungie have added increased heretical weapon drops from the Nether and Cord of Blades. I'm assuming that includes all variants, whether they're adepts, normals, shinies, whatever. So if there are any things that you still want to go after, maybe worth jumping into some Nether next week to try and do a few final wrap-ups on those rewards. The same, of course, applies to Rite of the Nine, so all of the dungeons in their current form will no longer be available next week, and we do have a Lootapalooza event starting this reset. So Bungie have said there will be increased currency rewards and weapon drops from enemies in all dungeons, and even more increased loot from the final boss chests when completing all encounters. On top of that, for July 8th, Prophecy will be the featured dungeon, and Bungie had additionally said that dungeon will have increased currency rewards and the chance for weapons to drop from enemy kills, plus they've said there'll be the increase for hollow foil weapons in general. They've basically made it sound like all of these buffs will stack on top of each other, and that means there'll be a hell of a lot of rewards dropping from Rite of the Nine this week. So if you're catching up after any rolls that you didn't manage to snag just yet, it should be a good week to jump in. Not to mention, I believe we may get into that secret room at the top of the spire following the reset as well, but time will tell. Next up though, before we go any further with the reset, I wondered what would happen if I threw out my vape in favor of something much safer, so I did, and this is what replaced it. Today the video is sponsored by Fume, and Fume are focused on creating better habits and alternatives to bad habits. We should mention that this is not a vape or an electronic device. There's no nicotine, and that's why it's backed by US doctors, because it's non-toxic and it isn't addictive. From my personal experience, I know how beneficial it can be to have something to replace bad habits and also to fidget with. And Fume simply draws air through a core, which creates a mild and pleasant flavour with no combustion, vapour, or strong scents, and there are a bunch of different flavours, one of my favourites being orange vanilla. Plus they're very sleek, portable, and built to last, which is why Fume has helped over 500,000 customers to change their habits and improve their well-being. So for a limited time, if you order the Journey Pack using code Houndish, you'll get a free Fume topper, which is an awesome accessory to level up your experience. So if you want to improve your habits, I totally recommend that you click the links in the description box below or scan the QR code on screen to get yours today. All the info's in the description box, and thanks to Fume for sponsoring the video. At this point, I'm sure many players are not really hunting power, but of course we do get pinnacle drops on the Pale Heart, and we get the refresh for Sundered Doctrine. If anyone's still chasing down the exotic, good luck in this last week. But for playlist stuff, we do have final chances for certain rewards this week. So Trials will return on Friday, and this will be the final time until, I believe, the start of September, as Bungie will essentially reintroduce it after a couple of weeks in Edge of Fate. So the weapon this week will be Iasia's Care, the adept variant of that, of course dropping for the very final time, as weapons will be moving to the tier system. So if you've been wanting to add one of those to collections, or you're still after a good roll, this weekend we'll see the final opportunity to do it. For the Vanguard this week though, the Nightfall should be Heist Battleground on Mars, according to rotations. One thing we can say for sure though, is that the Wild Style Adept will be the featured weapon, so once again, a final opportunity to pick this up in its existing form. I'm sure Bungie will bring some of these things back in the future, but it's another weapon that essentially will no longer be obtainable in its current form as of next week, so keep that in mind. For featured endgame activities though, the raids this week will include Deepstone Crypt being featured, so that makes Eyes of Tomorrow and the Legendary Loot Pool entirely farmable. And on Neomuna, that will apply to Rood of Nightmares, where we can additionally pick up the Conditional Finality exotic. So those are the raids. For featured dungeons this week though, on the moon we'll have Duality featured. That's a good one to go after if you need the Heart Shadow exotic sword. In addition to Duality though, we'll have Spire of the Watcher featured outside of Rite of the Nine, where Hierarchy of Needs can of course be obtained. So for any of those activities, if you want to farm away for the legendary rewards or the exotics without lockouts, this will be a good time to dive in. The exotic mission that'll be featured in the Legends tab this week coming though will be Node Override Avalon, where we can pick up the Vexcalibur and its upgrades. So again, if that's something else you're missing out on ahead of Edge of Fate, this will be a good week to head in and get it, as well as all of the upgrades. In the Dares of Eternity though, on top of the core loot drops this week, we get Rotation 4 drops, which includes the Scatterhorn and Pathfinder armor sets, as well as a bunch of weapons from Season of Defiance, and a couple of Forsaken World drops. For anyone farming Lost Sectors this week though, in the final few days, for Tuesday we'll have Aphelion's Rest featured in Dreaming City, then it'll be Chamber of Starlight. On the 10th of July though, Hydroponics Delta is featured, followed by Gilded Precept on the 11th of July, then we'll get the Thrillerdrome on July 12th, Broken Deep on July 13th, and Blooming Deep, which will be featured on the 14th of July. And of course, these have chances to drop world weapons as well as exotic engrams when you clear them solo. The last mention though is the Ascendant Challenge, the final Ascendant Challenge before the expansion. We've said that too many times, but it's going to be Keeper-owned edges which can be accessed via Harbinger's Seclude. So if you don't know where the location for that is, I'll run a clip at the end of this video. For the moment, that rounds up the weekly reset stuff. Once again, big shout out to Fume for sponsoring the video. If you're looking to replace your bad habits with something better, then I totally recommend you check out awesome products by Fume, which are linked below, or you can scan the QR code on screen. Otherwise, that is your lot, as they say here in the UK, or some people say. You probably got no idea what I'm referring to, but it's the last reset in the Final Shape year. It's been a very intriguing year, of course, starting with the juicy fat content drop that brought us here to the Pale Heart, and now onto other things, other stories in the Destiny universe, I suppose. Overall, I'd say I've enjoyed this year pretty well. There have been some trials and tribulations, of course, for Bungie and the community, hoping that Edge of Fate, Year of Prophecy, and everything Bungie have coming down the line will at least engage us for a while longer. Give us your thoughts about that down below. As always though, I very much do appreciate all you guys who've stuck around over the years and supported me here on this channel. It's made a massive difference, so cheers for that. If you've enjoyed the video today, a rating really does help us out. If you are new around here, once again, hit subscribe and I can keep you posted with all of the things we're about to experience in the new expansion. For the moment though, cheers for watching, and I hope you guys have an awesome day. Got him in the end.